GettingPositiveKarmaNow.com presents Bhagavad Gita for All, lectures by Nalan K. Narula, recorded in front of a live audience.
Namaste Narasimhaya Prahlada Ladadaine. Namaste Narasimhaya Prahlada Ladadaine. Hiranyakashipu Vaksaha Shilatanka Nakalaye. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimho Yato Yato Yamitato Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hriday Narsimha Narasimham Adim Sharanam Prapadye. Bahir Narsimha Hriday Narsimha Narasimham Adim Sharanam Prapadye. Tavakara Kamala Pare Nakam Madhura Bringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam. Tavakara Kamala Pare Nakam Madhura Bringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam. Keshavadhrita Narhari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare. Keshavadhrita Narhari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare. Namaste Narasimhaya Prahlada Ladadaine. Namaste Narasimhaya Prahlada Ladadaine. Hiranyakashipu Vaksaha Shilatanka Nakalaye. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimho Yato Yato Yamitato Narsimho. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimho Yato Yato Yamitato Narsimho. Bahir Narsimha Hriday Narsimho Narasimham Adim Sharanam Prapadye. Tavakara Kamala Pare Nakam Madhura Singham Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam. Tavakara Kamala Pare Nakam Madhura Singham Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam. Keshavadhrita Narhari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare. Keshavadhrita Narhari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Jaya Nrsimhadev, Jaya Nrsimhadev, Jaya Nrsimhadev, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. So last time we had completed text 20 of the 14th chapter, the three material modes of nature, the three qualities, and I will review the last two texts, 19 and 20. Those are important because in 14:19 Krishna says that when one sees in the right manner that in all activities there is no performer working other than these three material modes of nature, and the seer knows the transcendental nature that is above the material qualities, then such a one attains to my spiritual nature. So the importance of this is that the seer knows that the transcendental nature is above the material qualities. Now, the material modes of nature are the separated spiritual energy of Krishna, the personal energy of Krishna. And Krishna is transcendental or above that, and he is the source. So, in other words, the seer knows that Krishna is transcendental, that the Lord himself is transcendental to all that we are seeing. So there should be no confusion that even if and when he appears in the material world, he is not subject to those material modes of nature. And one who understands this, who can see this, such a one attains to my spiritual nature. And in 14:20, he says that going beyond these three material qualities that produce the body, the embodied one becomes liberated from birth, death, old age, and the threefold miseries, and enjoys nectarian bliss. So the nectarian bliss is happening when one engages in devotional activity, and the threefold miseries we had discussed last time, There was a reference in the Srimad Bhagavatam 7:13-31 explaining this further. Adhyatmik adibhir dukher. So Adhyatma adibhir means the miseries caused by our own mind and body, Adhyatmik. Then there is Adibhautik, which is miseries caused by other living entities and other beings, whether they are human or animal or insect or bacteria. And then there is the Adidaivik, the so-called acts of nature, which are actually developing because of mankind's activities, because of the embodied soul's activities, that creates a disruption in the balance of energies. So the material nature by itself is friendly. We have learned earlier about the body and the material nature and so on. So the material nature is a field of activity in which the living entities act, thereby creating misery and happiness, both. So material nature is not responsible. It is our karma, it is our actions that are responsible. So we have today text 14:21. We will study that. Arjun Vacha Kair linges trin gunan etan atito bhavati prabhu kim achara katham chaitams trin gunan ativartate. So Arjun asked this. He spoke and he said, Kair linga trin gunan, by what symptoms are these three qualities known, where one is beyond those three qualities? So etan, all of these, atita, one who is above and beyond, transcends these three qualities, bhavati, prabhu, my lord. Kim achara, what is the behavior? Katham cha etan trin gunan ativartate, and how does one transcend these material modes of nature? So what are the symptoms of one who has transcended these three material qualities, my lord? How does such a one behave and go above and beyond these three moods of nature? So this is a question that Arjun is raising. And the last 6 chapters, starting from 13 onwards, including this 14th one, these all give the information as to how one can liberate oneself from the material modes of nature and attain to the spiritual zones of existence. Now we have 4 texts which are very, very important. They are normally discussed in a continuity altogether. So this is a very important sequence of explanation that Lord Krishna gives. And this is very expansive knowledge which has been condensed into 4 shlokas. So we will discuss these today. Text 22 through 25 of chapter 14. Shri Bhagwan Vacha. The Supreme Lord said, Prakasham cha pravrittam cha moham eva cha pandava na dveshti sampravrittani na nivrittani kankshati udasina vad asino गुणेर्यु न विचालयति गुण वर्तन्त इति एवं यो अवितिष्ठति नेङ्गते सम दुख सुख स्वस्था सम लोष्टास्म कांचन तुल्य प्रिया प्रियो धीरस तुल्य निंदात्मा संस्तुति मानपमानयोस्तुल्यस तुल्यो मित्रारि प्रकाशयो Tulyo mitrari pakshayo sarvarambha parityagi gunatita sa uchyate. So this is a massive amount of information. The Supreme Lord said prakasham, that is illumination, and pravrittim is attachment to activity. Cha moham, illusion, and illusion also, evacha, Pandava, son of Pandu. Na dveshti, dveshti means one who does not hate, does not envy, or lament. So there are three aspects to dveshti: the hatred, envy, and lamentation. And some pravrittani, although developed or that has been worked at, basically. Na nivrittani, nor that has stopped the development of the working. Kankshati, desiring. Udasina vat asina, situated as though one is unconcerned and neutral. Gune na vichalyate, one who is not agitated by the action of these three qualities of material nature. Yana vichalyate, not agitated by these three qualities. And vartante, because he knows that these three qualities iti evam are only acting and nothing else. One such a one, avithashtati, remains never ingete, never wavering, never flickering. Sama, dukha, sukha, equipoised in happiness and distress. Swastha, being situated in his transcendental self. Sama loshta ashma kanchana, equally disposed, he looks equally at a lump of earth, a stone, whether it is of value or it is a precious stone, or gold, kanchana, tulya, he is equally disposed towards these. And he is equally disposed towards the priya, those who are the dear, and the apriya, those who are undesirable. So therefore, to those who are desirable and those who are undesirable, he is equally disposed towards both sides. Dhira, steady, equal, tulya. Ninda, atma, sanstuti, mana, apamana, whether he is, and he is steady. Dhir means one who is not destabilized, one who is steady. Equally, whether he has defamation, he faces defamation, or there is praise showered on him, or honor, or dishonor. He is equal in all such conditions. And he is equally disposed towards mitra, friends and enemies. Friends and foes, equally disposed. Tulya, mitra, ari. Ari is enemy. Pakshayo, to the sides, taking the sides of whether the enemy or the friend. He takes no sides, he is equally disposed. Sarva arambha, sarva, all endeavors at fruitive activities, that is aiming for some result, excessively endeavoring for any of these things. Parityagi, one who is a renouncer. Guna atita, who is above and beyond and transcendental to the material modes of nature. Sa uchyate, such a one is said to be. Now, in continuity, how do we understand this? So I will repeat this. That was the word to word. Now we'll give you the meaning and the purport. So the meaning is that the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna said, one who does not hate, envy, or lament the appearance of either illumination or the attachment to activity or the presence of illusion, O son of Pandu, and one who does not desire them when they are there or when they are no longer there, one who is firmly situated in a neutral position being unconcerned and not agitated by the action of the three qualities, remaining transcendental to these in his consciousness, knowing that only these modes of nature are acting, and one who, being situated in the transcendental self, remains illumined and unwavering, unflickering and steady in distress and happiness, in pleasure and pain, who looks at a lump of earth, a stone, a piece of gold with equal vision, one who is equally disposed towards friend and foe, who is equipoised, whether defamed, praised, honoured or dishonored, who treats friend and foe alike, and who has given up attachment to fruitive activities, that person is said to have transcended the material modes of nature. Now, a number of questions have been asked, and these have been answered in great detail by Lord Krishna. And the first sequence of the information that has been given to Arjuna is that a person, these are all qualities of people who are said to have transcended the material mode of nature, and how he acts, what is the actual action that he has to take in order to get over these. So one who does not hate, envy or lament the appearance of either illumination or the attachment to activity or the presence of illusion. Now, illumination is the sattva gun, the quality of sattva gun. We have previously discussed what are the three material modes, and the quality of sattva gun is knowledge and happiness. So one who does not lament or envy or desire or want to detach himself from either of these qualities, whether they're the sattva gun, illumination, or the attachment to activity, which is rajogun, or the presence of illusion, which is tamogun, and one who does not desire them when they are there or when they are no longer there. So it doesn't matter to him if those activities are working within his body. One who is firmly situated in a neutral position, being unconcerned and unagitated by the action of these three qualities, remaining transcendental to these in his consciousness. So how will he remain transcendental to these? In his body is made of these three material qualities. So he, as long as he is in this kind of a body, he is never going to be transcendental to the body. But in his consciousness and understanding, in his internal self, if he is situated in the transcendental soul self consciousness, that is considered to be transcendental. If he is not agitated or disturbed by what is going on in the body. So this is a very key understanding, that these three qualities of nature will continuously work within the body. So for example, when you sleep, that is the mode of ignorance, tamas. When you are acting, that is the mode of passion. And when you are developing knowledge or information and connecting to the divine, that is the mode of goodness. So all these three modes will keep interacting with you in your life. But the secret is to do all your activities and offer them up to the divine as a service to the divine, giving up the results to him. So that makes these activities transcendental. Then there is no concern whether the activities of the nature of goodness or of passion or of ignorance. So he knows that only these material modes of nature are acting, and internally the soul self actually is not concerned with any of this. So that jump in consciousness is required. So one who is situated in the transcendental self remains illumined and unwavering, unflickering. So the word that was used was steady, unflickering and steady and unwavering. So flickering refers to a lamp or a flame. So that flame of illumination, actually of transcendental realization, must be there. And that this can happen only when one is connecting deeply with the transcendental consciousness. And there He is steady. It's not that he does not feel pleasure or pain. He may feel pleasure, he may feel pain, he will feel all these things. But in all of these, he remains at balance and steady. How it is possible? It is possible only through understanding this nature and understanding the spiritual nature and being situated in the transcendental self nature, which is happening when you have the spiritual connection and you are connecting to that through your healing process, through your meditation process on the divine, through the sound vibration of the chanting of the names of the divine, that all have transcendental qualities. So as you associate more and more with those transcendental qualities, you become detached from the material. It is happening quite naturally and normally, just like if you have a green coconut and then you have one which is fully ready coconut. To separate the flesh of the green coconut from the shell is difficult. You can't separate it all. Some of it will remain adhering to the shell. But in a fully mature coconut, a ripe coconut, it will rattle because the shell and the inner part has detached from the shell. So in the same manner, there is a maturity that comes in time through the process. So time is required, a process is required, connection to the divine nourishment is required. And when you have that, then gradually one comes to the point of being not disturbed by any of the transient influences of these three material modes of nature. And therefore he looks at a lump of earth, a stone, a piece of gold with equal vision. He knows these things are to be used for various purposes, so he uses them for the purpose of detaching from the material, and he is using them as part of his journey, as part of his work to liberate himself with the blessings of Krishna and the influence of Krishna, who will actually liberate the individual from the karmic bindings. So the person knows that these are karmic bindings and the activities create karmic bindings. And he is detaching himself, in the process of detaching himself from all of these activities. One who is equally disposed towards friend and foe, who is balanced and equipoised whether he is defamed, praised, honoured or dishonoured, treating friend and enemy alike, and who has given up the attachment to fruitive activities. That person is said to have transcended the material modes of nature. Now, how do you treat the sides of a friend and foe alike? The way you treat the friend and foe alike is that you are honest and truthful, whether the person is enemy to you or he is friend. You are honest and truthful if you have any interaction with them, even in your statements and in your activities. So that is how you treat friend and foe alike. It is not that they are the same. Certainly not. A friend may be supportive, whereas a foe may be obstructive, an enemy may be obstructive to you. Keeping that in mind, dealing with them in that way. At the same time, you do not hesitate to tell them the truth about the important things that matter. So even if you wish your enemy well, how will you wish him well? You know that it is a problem, but you will speak to them about the goals of life or the transcendental nature and the material nature. You will not withhold that information, that I will not tell you this because you are my enemy, because you might get liberated. So as healers, similarly, we have been recommending that even if you have an enemy, you must send healing to them, and do not stop sending healing thinking, oh, that person will be helped greatly, I want him to suffer, so let me not send the healing. So that is a typical understanding as far as spiritualists are concerned, how to treat your friend and foe alike. So you're well-wisher to all, whether he's enemy or he is friend. So the concept of well-wishing has to be translated into action. And this is how you translate it into action, that you channel healing to everybody, the divine healing energy of liberation from karmic bindings is to be spread out and illuminate everyone, regardless of who they might be in their relationship to you, which is coming through the activities of the material nature. And finally, one who has given up the attachment to fruitive activities. So that means that I am not attached to the results. I am doing my activity, but without attachment to the result. And it is not that I am doing my activity whimsically. I am not doing my activity haphazardly. I am doing it honestly. I am doing it properly. So that brings up the fourth principle of Reiki just for today. I shall do my work honestly. So honest work means that I do the work and I am not attached to the result. So the third and fourth principle come into play. The third one being that I am not, just for today, I am not angry. I don't get angry, because anger is coming from resentment of lack of result and inability to control. So the controlling nature is subdued. There is a positional control, that if you are in the position of executing a certain obligation or function, you cannot renounce that. For example, a judge cannot say that I don't want to sentence this person to death, although he deserves it by his activities. He has to fulfill that. And internally, he can be very detached, like Lord Yamraj, for example. Yudhishthir is an expansion of Lord Yamraj, is an incarnation of Lord Yamraj. So he was very upright, very honest, very law-abiding. And yet when there has to be severe action taken against inimical forces, enemies, on the battlefield, yes, that will be taken also. But he was a just and lawful ruler. And there is an aspect of forgiveness internally, but externally the action must continue. Otherwise there will be complete chaos and lawlessness. So internally one may be situated in a transcendental consciousness, and externally one is working with all these three modes of nature, and one who has given up attachment to these fruitive results which are happening in the mode of passion, basically the attachment to activity, that is fruitive results. Even the demigods, they have the sattva gun, so they develop more sattva gun. There is also some hint of tamas, some hint of rajas in their activities, because if they are bewildered or they don't know who Krishna is, as Lord Indra was at one point, not aware that Krishna is the supreme creator of all that exists. So there can be confusion, and that can be somewhat in the mode of ignorance, lack of knowledge. But being connected and attached to the mode of goodness is what will illuminate everything. So it is recommended that one should get more attached to the mode of goodness and then go beyond and above it. So in the body you can't go beyond and above it, you can only go beyond and above it in your inner self. So activities you have to do. So the way to do these activities, whatever you are doing, is to offer them to the divine as doing it with the consciousness that the inner spirit and soul is of the quality of the Lord, it's Himself. And these are the material modes of nature that have captured that consciousness, and they are working their way out to end the karmic bank balance that keeps one in the material zone of existence. And that is how you will develop these qualities. This is the way that you have to work, and eventually become steadier and steadier, more and more steady, no matter what is happening. So you don't take the easy way out thinking, now this has not worked, let me run to the astrologer, let me run to this system of religiosity, let me approach that demigod. So those are all in the mode of ignorance activities and in the mode of passion, because when the transcendental exists, is there with you, and you are working with those energies, your destiny changes. This is what has been experienced by all spiritualists. And initially one may be attached to changing their material destiny and wanting more benefits. In the maturity of your healing service, you come to a point where you are not concerned with the result really. It starts with not being unduly concerned, and then it is quite a degree of detachment. And finally, as you continue to work with this, you will get the results in the present lifetime only of being happy, of being joyful, of being unconcerned about all the upheavals that are going around you, because you know that they are all caused by the three modes of nature, whether it is political upheaval, whether it is economic upheaval or personal upheaval. These are all happening because of these activities of the modes of nature with which the soul has nothing to do. So if you remain in the soul consciousness, then you are automatically detached. So there is no long process. So as much as you remain in the soul consciousness, that much detachment comes, and ultimately the body remains as a vehicle for you to exit this scenario, doing what is required of you. It does not mean that you become inactive, but you become detached from those activities and the results. So that is how you can achieve this. And many of you have experienced this considerably. And one of the questions that comes up always is that, in the last couple of times that we have discussed on Thursdays as well as on Saturdays, is that not over-endeavoring. So this is the point of not over-endeavoring. How much is enough? So without being terribly attached and without rejecting. So here you don't hug anything to yourself and you don't push it away. So anything is usable in the service of Krishna, we use. So I will read this again, because this sequence from 22 to 25 of chapter 14 is very, very important. The Supreme Lord Krishna said, "One who does not hate, envy or lament the appearance of either illumination or the attachment to activity or the presence of illusion, O son of Pandu, and one who does not desire them when they are there or when they are no longer there, one who is firmly situated in a neutral position, being unconcerned and not agitated by the action of the three qualities, remaining transcendental to these in his consciousness, knowing that only these modes of nature are acting, and one who, being situated in the transcendental self, remains illumined and unwavering, unflickering and steady in distress and happiness, in pleasure and pain, who looks at a lump of earth, a stone, a piece of gold with an equal vision, one who is equally disposed towards friend and foe, who is equipoised, whether defamed, praised, honoured or dishonoured, who treats friend and enemy alike, and who has given up attachment to fruitive activities. That person is said to have transcended the material modes of nature." So we will conclude here today, and if there are any questions, I will take a few questions. So Arjun's questions were, what are the symptoms of one who has transcended these three material qualities, my Lord? And how does one behave and go above and beyond these three modes of nature? So Lord Krishna has answered this in great detail, explaining the symptoms by which such a person may be identified, and what he actually does, which we can learn from him how to act in these conditions. So one may do this perfectly or imperfectly, but the doing is important. It's a process. So anybody has any questions? Yes.
So what do you categorize exactly as over endeavor?
Over endeavor means to over endeavor, to work excessively for a particular result at the cost of your balance, because over attachment to that result. So you have great highs and you have great lows. So that's not a balanced position. So one who doesn't have these great highs or great extremes, so it's like if you are going very high, then you are going very low, crashing, so then slowly that up and down movement, like bobbing in water, is going on, and then it comes to a very low vibration, and then it is steady regardless of everything that is going on. So one can experience that when the healing is going on. When you do your healing, no matter what is happening outside you, if you are actually connected to the flow of healing energy, outside situation is not changed. It is as miserable or bad or troublesome as it was, but internally you are at peace and at balance. So that is the state that you must maintain, or that is the state that a person does maintain when they are connected to that inner space of purity. So that joyous self gives you the joy regardless of what is going on. It doesn't matter. So unconcerned doesn't matter means that he is not concerned about it, that I must run and do something about it. He is tolerating. So he has to be tolerant. He is tolerating the pains. He is not rejecting. If the work is there, if he has to work, he is working. He is not saying I'm not going to work. He is not lazy. He is not in the mode of ignorance. He is not sitting around doing nothing. He is doing something. So he may be doing more in the mode of goodness, less in the mode of passion, and less in the mode of ignorance. So inactivity, laziness, lack of knowledge, intoxication, bewilderment, these are all tamasic activities. Sleeping too much, that is tamasic activity. Beyond the needs of the body. A lot of these things we do not because of the body's needs, but because of our inner desires. So we will be attached to a certain food, for example, or we will be attached to a certain person excessively, and making that a point where one can feel happiness or distress. And nothing remains the same forever. These relationships change. So that also must be factored in. It's not that it's going to be equivalent. For example, you have a small child, and that small child is attached to you when he is 3, 4, 5, 6. The child grows up and you expect him to behave the same way. It's not going to happen. At 12, 13, 14, they detach. And then as they grow older, then they're very much detached. And if you have not moved with that, then you're in trouble. And then you're always harking back to the past, thinking those were good times. But if you go back and you think you were miserable in those times also, I have to do all this work for this baby. It's such a tough job. Why don't he grow up and look after himself? And when he does that, then you say, hey, what happened, he has disappeared. He's got his own thing going and there's no contact with me. Well, that's the way it is. So you have to be balanced even in those states. Yes.
San Gautam has a question.
Yes.
Good morning, Master. When we experience something, it is essentially a physical experience as we feel something internally. So detachment implies lack of such feelings and thus such physical experiences.
No, it is not neither a lack of feeling and neither is it a lack of not doing anything. The feeling is going to happen, but you remain balanced. The thing is that you are not to be disbalanced. You are not to be thrown off balance by these things, because you are going to get those. There is no state where you can be without feeling. The body will give you pain, it will give you pleasure, but it is that you don't run after the pain or pleasure, you don't detach from, reject the pain or pleasure, but internally you are detached. By outward renunciation and inward attachment, that is a hypocritical condition. That outwardly I'm detached, but inwardly I'm very attached to this and I'm constantly meditating on it. That's not detachment.
It's further saying, but such feelings cloud our reactions as well.
Yes, so that is bewilderment coming from tamas. So then you recognize it and shift gears and understand what is actually happening. So such feelings cloud the thinking, and then
he says, so if we do feel such reactions, then there is bound to be difference. There's bound to be a difference in behavior. How does one handle that?
By immediately bringing your consciousness to the center, by centering yourself, balancing your consciousness, and getting rid of your fear and anxiety. So if there is a certain situation that you're facing, you make provision to deal with it. So you deal with it in a way that is giving you less trouble. But if you are overly concerned, for example, there are certain things that you can do and then you're waiting for the result to come. You've taken action at your end, but the result has not yet come. So what do you do in the meantime? So then you're confused, you're unhappy, you're stressed out. That part of the time period, you need to understand that you have taken, or tell yourself that I have done all that I had to do. If you haven't, review it and do it. Then you won't have this pressure on you. The rest is not in your hand. The result is not in your hand. You can work towards a particular goal, but the result, whether you get that goal or not, is never in your hand, even though you are doing the healing, or even if you are not a healer. It doesn't matter, because the result is not in your hand. As a healer, you are better placed to understand this than a person who is not a healer, because they are then in illusion and they are endeavoring excessively for fruitive result because of attachment. So the whole point here is of attachment. So how can you detach? You can detach when you are attached to something superior. So if you are attached to the spiritual nature, which is beyond the modes of material modes of nature, that is the automatic action. So it is sometimes that when you have worked very hard for something, or you are endeavoring effort, and then you just give up. You just say, okay, let it be. What do you feel? You feel very relaxed. Not kind of a sad, let it be, what can I do? It's just, okay, I've done what I can, and now it's out of my hands. So when you come to that point of this is out of my hands, that is a critical thing for you to say to yourself, this is not in my hand anymore. What was in my hand, I have done. So I have done my work honestly. I have worked properly for this. After that, I cannot do anything. What is there to be done? I have to just wait and see what is the response from the universe and from the material modes of nature, and then I will deal with it as and when it comes. So if I am in a particular situation and then I am in a stressed situation because I want to, this is happening because I want to maintain my existing state even though I don't have the support system for it. So this typically happens, for example, a person who is working, he has a particular lifestyle. And now suddenly the income is less, or the work is not giving them that kind of financial support. But they will maintain that lifestyle. That is the stress. So the proper thing to do is to downsize. Don't do those things that are expensive or costing you money if you can't afford it. So it is not a matter of how much money you're earning. It is always a matter of the difference between what you earn and what you spend in those areas. If you earn more than what you spend, you are happy. If you spend more than what you earn, you are definitely going to be unhappy. So that is as far as your daily activities in terms of income and expenditure is concerned. And then there are other activities in terms of your work which earns you the income. So over endeavoring even in the work is not recommended. We are not saying that you don't work at all, or you just have such a laid back attitude that you get fired or you get removed from your job. But you work delivering adequate results. And internally be not concerned. You take the external action as is required. Internally do not be disturbed, because you know that this is all a game of the interaction of the material modes of nature. Passion and ignorance mostly, some goodness is there. The more you are in the mode of goodness and less in the mode of passion and ignorance, this will happen automatically for you. You'll find that you're not neglecting things, but you're not overly attached to them, and then gradually you will detach completely. I'm not concerned about whether the result comes or not. I'm doing my work. I'm doing it properly to the best of my ability. That's it. Now, best of your ability from 99% going to 99.2 or 99.5 is not critical. Whatever number you choose. I'm able to do this much, and if I expend more effort on it, how much of a difference is it going to make to anything? Because ultimately everything has to be destroyed. The material nature is destructive. Living in the world, everything is destructive. That ultimately things end and new things come up. Childhood ends, youthfulness comes, youthfulness ends, maturity comes, maturity ends, old age comes. Old age goes and you die. Then you leave everything behind. In the meantime, you are troubled by this Triguni Maya. And you are troubled by other people. You are troubled by mosquitoes. You are troubled by dengue. The season is there. You are troubled by snake bite, dog bite, husband bite, wife bite. Everybody is biting and nibbling at you. The boss bite. The boss is nibbling at you. And you are nibbling at other people. So this mutual nibbling goes on, then it is cause for trouble.
So San Gautam is further saying this would imply thinking about divine all the time. Otherwise, there can be periods where one will be attached to the reactions. Is that correct?
It is not necessarily thinking about the divine himself. It is thinking about your divine nature or being attached to the divine nature. It is said that it must be situated in your transcendental self. It does not say that you always meditate on me in this sequence of what he is talking about. If you are constantly meditating on Krishna, how will you operate? How will you do your work? But if you are situated in the quality of Krishna, if you are situated in your personal transcendental quality which is coming from Krishna, you first do that and experience it and see. That is what is required. Not that you are always thinking of Krishna and therefore become inactive. Not required. I am doing my spiritual activity and religious activity religiously, and therefore I cannot do any work. Look after me. No. That is not on.
So, Priya Raghuram is saying, all my gratitude to you, Master. Your guidance today is completely in sync with what I need as per the current life situation events. All my love and respect to you always.
Okay, we love you too. Yes, Ajay.
So, how do we transform from a complaining being to a non-complaining being?
By these things. Have you not heard anything today? If you have not heard anything, when we put it up on the net, then you can listen to it again. I cannot repeat the whole class for you. It is a matter of practice. I have said that. And you have to see. The more you are connected to your spiritual nature, the complaining will also reduce. So it is not that what you have to do to force the complaining to be less. You don't tackle the complaining. You tackle the connection to your spiritual self. So if you are situated in your consciousness with your spiritual self, automatically complaining is going to reduce. So if you are complaining, that means you are not in your spiritual self. All such conditions arise from being separate in your consciousness from the transcendental. That is the one sentence answer to all of these questions. Be situated in your transcendental self, everything else will be taken care of automatically. There's an automatic detachment. You cannot force the green coconut to give up all its flesh equally, and you'll puncture the shell, you'll damage it. So similarly, you cannot detach yourself artificially. You have to focus on your inner self, inner space. That's why it is very important to connect with the flow of the divine energy. And yet you continue to do your actions. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So we will conclude here. We have done text 21 through 25 of chapter 14. And this is a very important section which talks about the activities of a person who is transcendental, who is transcendentally situated, and how does one become liberated from birth, death, old age and disease is by being situated in your transcendental self and being equipoised in all activities. So that is the summary here. Okay, so we will conclude today at text 25 of chapter 14. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next week.
Well, one is saying gratitude, respect, and mercy.
All right. Okay. God bless. Right.
You've been listening to Nalan Kainarula on gettingpositivekarmanow.com.